Imagine a world where reality blurs with the most audacious of fictions, a tale of forgotten royalty, fierce determination, and a secret so profound it would redefine an entire family's existence. This is the story of the royal family of Oudh, a saga that captivated a nation and baffled the world for decades. At the height of the 1970s, an extraordinary spectacle unfolded within the bustling confines of New Delhi's railway station. A mysterious family, cloaked in an aura of ancient lineage, took up residence in the first-class waiting room. They were not merely passing through, they were making a statement, a defiant stand against a world they claimed had wronged them. The matriarch, an austere woman draped in a finely woven sari, commanded attention. She introduced herself as Begum Wilayat Mahal, the rightful descendant of the illustrious Oudh Dynasty. Her companions were her grown children, Princess Sakina and Prince Cyrus, the latter occasionally known as Ali Raza. Their presence was a living tableau of faded grandeur. Surrounded by a retinue of Nepali servants, a formidable pack of ferocious guard dogs, and all their worldly possessions, they became an instant sensation. Journalists flocked, diplomats fretted, and the public whispered, why were they here, in such an unconventional setting? And what audacious demand did they dare to make? The Begum's narrative was as compelling as it was tragic. She recounted how the British, in their imperial conquest, had unjustly dethroned the last reigning king of Oudh in 1847. With that act, she claimed, her ancestral property, vast and opulent, had been stolen. Now she demanded its return, a restitution for centuries of perceived injustice. Her proof, she lamented, had vanished in a devastating fire that consumed her palace in Kashmir. With no documents to substantiate their royal identities, their claim rested solely on their unwavering conviction and the sheer force of their presence. For years, they penned letters to dignitaries, staged protests, and created an undeniable commotion, their plight echoing through the corridors of power. Their decade-long occupation of the railway station was a masterclass in passive resistance. The Begum, with her regal bearing and unyielding resolve, transformed a public space into a stage for her ancestral grievances. She believed that by living in such diminished circumstances, she could shame the Indian government into acknowledging her family's claims. Newspaper headlines screamed of "Riches gone, India princess reigns in rail station." The imagery was potent. An Islamic noblewoman living amidst frayed oriental rugs in a former viceroy's waiting room, fanned by a servant, while her Dobermans and Labradors howled at strangers outside. It was a scene plucked from a forgotten epic, a modern-day Arabian Nights. Every day that we have to remain here brings additional honor to the House of Oudh and more disgrace upon the government of India, the Begum declared, her voice resonating with an almost theatrical gravitas. Her children, Sakina Mahal and Ali Raza, echoed her sentiments, their youthful faces hardened by years of this peculiar existence. Their days were consumed by prayer, the occasional painting by Ali Raza, and the relentless task of writing hundreds of letters, pressing their demands for the return of their ancestral palaces in Lucknow. The Begum's defiance extended beyond her immediate circumstances. She spurned invitations from other nations, including Nepal and Pakistan, to settle abroad. "I prefer to live like this in India than with riches elsewhere," she asserted, a testament to her unwavering commitment to her homeland and her cause. Historians surprisingly lent some credence to her claims, acknowledging the dubious legality of the British annexation of Oudh. The family's narrative wove through generations of resistance. The Begum recounted how her ancestors had refused to deal with the British, how her grandmother, Zamrud Mahal, had appeared before the Prince of Wales in a conspicuously torn garara, a symbol of her family's unbroken defiance. Even after India's independence, she claimed, Jawaharlal Nehru had been sympathetic, providing a small palace in Kashmir. But tragedy struck again in 1971 when the Kashmir palace burned down. The Begum hinted at arson, suggesting government agents and communal motives. It was this devastating loss, she maintained, that drove her and her family to the railway station, a strategic move to amplify their cause and directly confront the authorities. In 1976, the government of Uttar Pradesh offered them a modern residence, an offer the Begum vehemently refused. "Why should I?" she retorted. "I want only what is mine, what was wrongfully taken from us." Her words were laced with a poetic, almost prophetic conviction, comparing her royal lineage to an eagle that would not stoop to a bulbul's nest. She yearned for an old decaying palace, now a pharmaceutical research center, declaring, "The ruined walls are my life." After nearly a decade of this extraordinary protest, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, perhaps weary of the persistent spectacle, finally intervened. In 1984, she granted the family permission to reside at Malcha Mahal, an abandoned 14th century hunting lodge nestled deep within the ridge forest of central Delhi. It was a concession, but far from the grand palaces they demanded. Malcha Mahal was a stark, almost brutal structure. It lacked electricity, running water, doors, or windows, featuring only a series of large open arches. Bats screeched from the ceilings, and snakes slithered through its ancient stones. Yet for the Begum, it was a step closer to her perceived royal dignity. She immediately asserted her authority, hanging a chilling sign: "Entry restricted, cautious of hound dogs. Proclamation: intruders shall be gunned down." Life at Malcha Mahal was a bizarre blend of regal pretense and stark deprivation. The family, still accompanied by their loyal servants and formidable dogs, lived in self-imposed isolation. They continued their rituals, their prayers, and their endless correspondence with government officials. The contrast between their claims of nobility and their squalid reality was profound, yet they never wavered. Prince Ali Raza, now in his 20s, would order servants to jab sticks at the ceiling, sending bats flapping and screeching, their droppings raining down on the frayed oriental carpets. "How can we live like this?" he would ask visitors, a rhetorical question that underscored their perceived suffering. Princess Sakina, with her hollow eyes and taut face, would pace in her black cape, lamenting the loss of their silver and tea sets. Despite their poverty, the family maintained an unwavering belief in their royal status. "The House of Oudh does not appreciate trade, business, and politics," Prince Cyrus declared. "It is better to be in the grip of death rather than in the grip of a job." They survived by selling off what little jewelry and rugs they had left, their pride forbidding them from engaging in any form of labor. Their correspondence, meticulously handwritten by the Begum on thick black stationery embossed with the Royal House of Oudh, continued to flow to government offices. The prince would proudly display these letters, pointing to his mother's extravagant script proclaiming that "the stern dignity of the countenance of the Royal House of Oudh shall never waver to demand the return of our ancestral palaces." The family's interactions with the outside world were rare and often fraught. Journalists, drawn by the enduring mystery, would brave the treacherous path to Malcha Mahal, often met with suspicion and the snarling of dogs. Yet, the family, particularly Prince Cyrus, seemed to relish the attention, using it to further their narrative and maintain their fragile connection to the world beyond their crumbling walls. For over 40 years, the family's claims remained largely unchallenged by the mainstream. They were a constant fascination, a living legend in the heart of Delhi. True descendants of the Oudh Dynasty, however, consistently dismissed the Begum and her children as frauds, their protests largely unheard amidst the clamor of the family's dramatic performance. Then, in 2016, the veil of mystery began to lift. Investigative journalist Ellen Barry, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a commitment to uncovering the truth, embarked on a meticulous investigation. Her journey took her deep into the archives, through historical records and across continents, piecing together a puzzle that had eluded so many for so long. Barry's findings were nothing short of astonishing. The supposed Begum of Oudh, the regal matriarch who had commanded such attention, was not royalty at all. She was, in fact, a widowed housewife and activist named Vilayat Butt. Her story was one of profound personal tragedy and the desperate measures taken in the wake of a nation's violent partition. Vilayat Butt had been forced to move from India to Pakistan during the tumultuous partition of 1947. Her heart, however, yearned for her homeland. Returning to India was a near impossibility due to the escalating political tensions between the two newly formed nations. It was this desperate desire to return, to reclaim a sense of belonging, that fueled her extraordinary deception. The elaborate royal identity was not merely a whim, it was a calculated strategy, a desperate gamble to force her way back into India. Vilayat Butt, with two of her 5 children, Mickey Butt, who became Prince Cyrus, and Farhad Butt, who transformed into Princess Sakina, orchestrated this audacious hoax. The other children, perhaps unwilling to participate in the charade, remained in Pakistan. Their financial sustenance came primarily from one of Vilayat's sons, Shahid, a foundry worker living in England who sent money to support his mother and siblings. Beyond this, the self-proclaimed royal family of Oudh sustained themselves by meticulously cultivating the intrigue surrounding them, keeping journalists captivated and in turn providing them with a means to make ends meet. The story of Vilayat Butt was one of immense personal struggle. The partition had not only divided a nation, but had also shattered countless lives, leaving many displaced and dispossessed. For Vilayat, the royal charade was perhaps a way to reclaim agency, to create a new identity that transcended the trauma of her past. It was a desperate attempt to find a place in a world that seemed to have no room for her. The children, Mickey and Farhad, were drawn into this elaborate fantasy from a young age. They lived their entire adult lives within the confines of this fabricated reality, their identities inextricably linked to the roles their mother had assigned them. The constant performance, the unwavering commitment to the lie, must have taken an immense psychological toll. Sadly, their assumed royal life was anything but easy. It was a life marked by profound loneliness, misunderstanding, and the crushing weight of mental health struggles. The isolation of Malcha Mahal, the constant pressure to maintain the facade, and the inherent contradictions of their existence slowly eroded their spirits. In 1993, the elaborate hoax took its first tragic turn. Vilayat Butt, the indomitable Begum, succumbed to the immense pressures she had carried for so long. She died by suicide. leaving her grown children to carry on the elaborate deception. The story goes that she ground her remaining diamonds into dust and swallowed them, a final desperate act of defiance and despair. Prince Cyrus and Princess Sakina were left alone in the crumbling lodge, bound by the legacy of their mother's grand illusion. They continued to live in the same manner, maintaining the pretense of royalty, even as their world grew smaller and more desolate. Prince Cyrus, in particular, became a poignant figure, still setting a place at the table for his deceased mother, refilling her glass with fresh water every morning. His unshakable belief in his own nobility prevented him from mixing with anyone he regarded as a social inferior, which tragically meant virtually everyone else on earth. He complained of the rain, the spiders, and the jackals, but most of all, he spoke of the terrible sorrows and injustices his family had endured. Princess Sakina, too, struggled with the weight of their shared secret and the isolation. She died some months before Ellen Barry's final revelations, leaving Prince Cyrus truly alone in the ruins of Malcha Mahal. His body was found a month after his death, his belongings ransacked, a litter of letters and business cards from journalists scattered on the floor. In death, as in life, Prince Cyrus never betrayed his family's belief in their own exceptional nature. Ordinariness is not just a crime, it is a sin, his sister Sakina had once declared. There was certainly nothing ordinary about Cyrus or his family. That was both their charm and their profound tragedy. The story of the royal family of Oudh is more than just a tale of deception. It is a profound exploration of identity, belief, and the human capacity for both resilience and self-delusion. It raises questions about the nature of truth, the power of narrative, and the lengths to which individuals will go to reclaim a lost past or forge a new future. Was Wilayat Butt a cunning con artist, a desperate refugee, or a woman driven to madness by circumstance? Perhaps she was all of these things, a complex figure whose actions defied simple categorization. Her children, too, were victims and perpetrators, trapped in a narrative not entirely of their own making. Their story serves as a haunting reminder of the lingering shadows of colonialism and partition, the psychological scars left on generations. It also highlights the enduring allure of royalty and the human desire for a grander, more meaningful existence, even if it must be meticulously constructed from fragments of fantasy. The royal family of Ough's saga is a testament to the power of a compelling story, even one built on illusion. What other hidden histories lie buried, waiting to be unearthed? Dive deeper into the archives of untold stories. Share this documentary with friends, subscribe for more captivating narratives, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on this extraordinary tale of identity and deception.